Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice to radio, so today I am delighted to be showing you the deck with which Robin Schulz has just won the Pokemon World Championships 2018 in the Masters division. And yes, I know it only finished like a second or two ago, but that, ladies and gentlemen, has been my move for a couple of years, and I don't see any reason to change it now. And the thing is, this is not a new deck, or a particularly unique deck. This is a very similar build of the same deck with which Stefan Ivanov went and won the North American International Championships. The last big tournament we had a couple of months ago. So how did Robin go and win Worlds with it? Because he's an amazing player, and because it's the kind of deck where if you really know what you're doing, you can take down anything. Now, it all focuses around Zoroark and Garbodor, and people who watch my videos regularly will know these are not new Pokemon. These are Pokemon we've talked about on a number of occasions. Zoroark's got the trade ability. You discard a card from your hand, you draw two. If you get multiple Zoroark out, you have consistency which is basically unmatched by any other deck in the format. It's over the top. You can be drawing 8 new cards per turn. Essentially, if you can get your Zoroark out, you will then get everything else you need. Then you've got Riotous Beating for just a double colourless energy, which does 20 damage for every Pokemon you've got in play. You have a full bench 120, you had a choice band 150. It's not the biggest attack ever. It's not the bestest attack ever. It's not going to get you giant one-hit KOs. It's going to do enough damage that while you're doing everything else this deck can do, you'll be 2-hit KOing, 1-hit KOing occasionally, and just finishing off the game fairly nicely. And then you've got Garbodor. First of all, we've got the Garbotoxin Garbodor, which blocks abilities. And if we look at the kind of field we've got at the World Championships this year, we've got Diancie Prism Star, we've got Malamar that he faced off against in the final, we've got Rayquaza, and Tapu Lele's in every single deck. Most decks are playing either Octillery or Oranguru, and of course, opposing Zoroark. Because you see, yes, you're turning off your trade as well, but firstly, you can always just field blower your own tool off and put a new one on. Because, of course, remember, Garbodor only blocks abilities with a tool attached. But secondly, you choose when the ability lock comes in. So what you do is you make sure you're in a better position than your opponent, you make sure you've got a better board state than your opponent, then you block abilities. Or you play an end to put your opponent down to 1 or 2 cards, and then you block abilities, which, of course, he did very nicely in his top 4 game. A game, might I mention, in which he came back from 5 prizes down. And then you end up with the Trashalanche Garbodor, the one from Guardians Rising. For a single Psychic Energy, it does 20 damage for each item card in your opponent's discard pile. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? That adds up pretty gosh darned quickly. You are making your opponent think, can I play this Ultra Ball? You're making Zoroark players have to trade away non-item cards so you're not doing extra damage. You're making them worry about attaching a choice band because you can just play a field blower and then you're doing 20 extra damage, or 40 if you get rid of 2 of them. You are making your opponent second guess for the entire game. Can I afford to play this item card? And while you're doing that, you're probably winning the game. That's what is so beautiful about this. And in terms of other Pokemon, we really don't see very much from Robin here. Obviously, we've got Tapu Lele, who's got the Wonder Tag ability, and in a deck that revolves around stage 1s and doesn't really have many basic attackers, you do need to get a turn 1 Bridget. So you can search out your basic Pokemon and get rolling. That's very, very important. But it's also a decent attacker. You come across something like Buzzwole or Zygarde that really wants to attach 3 or 4 energy to do big attacks, and will hit for weakness against Zoroark, that's very bad. Now, obviously against Buzzwole, you can use a Garbodor when they've played enough items. But in the early game, or against a Zygarde that's not weak to Garbodor, Tapu Lele actually becomes a legitimate option for attacking. You're playing double colourless anyway, so if a Zygarde ends up with 4 energy after a Cell Connect, you add a double colourless energy, there's 6 energy in total, you're hitting for 120. 150 with a Choice Band. And this isn't with your main attacker. This is with a Tapu Lele that you're largely playing for Wonder Tag. Now, there is one other Pokemon we do see in Robin's deck, which is very important, and that is Kartana. Kartana, and you have to play unit energy with Kartana, because obviously it doesn't attack for either double colourless or psychic. The good news is there is a unit energy which encompasses both darkness and metal, so you can play a unit energy which will fuel Kartana, while still having that same energy to fuel Garbodor if you need to. And there's 2 really good things about Kartana. First of all, the ability is just Enhanced Hammer. You play it down, you get rid of one of your opponent's special energy, like for instance a double colourless energy off a Zoroark, in the mirror match, or a strong energy or a beast energy off of a Buzzwole. Yeah, it's pretty gosh darn nice, and unlike Enhanced Hammer, it can be searched out with an Ultra Ball. Not a Bridget though, because then it would go straight onto the bench and you wouldn't get the ability. But then you've got the Blade GX attack, which just lets you take a prize. That's good if you're having a slow game, if you just need some extra cards. Important to note, it doesn't make your board position any better, just takes a prize. But then again, maybe there's 3 prizes remaining. Maybe you extend to get a big giant GX KO, and then you're like, oh, now I can take my last prize with this. If you ever end up in a sudden death game, ladies and gentlemen, Kartana pretty much guarantees you the win, because 1 energy and you instant win. Not that that happens very often, but something to bear in mind here. So that's the Pokemon. In terms of item cards and trainer cards here, I mean, we've got the usual things like Professor Sycamore and Cynthia to get set up and blah, blah, blah. I want to focus on the more unusual cards in the list here. Ones you might not see in every deck ever. Obviously, we see Parallel City here. It's a staple of these Zoroark decks, but it's so important. Lowers your opponent's bench size to 3. Against Rayquaza, that's going to stop their setup. But against decks like Malamar, it means they probably won't have enough bench space to get all the Malamar and accelerate all the energy they won't. But against stuff like Zoroark, you're literally meaning that they can only hit a maximum 80 damage rather than 120. Plus, Shrine of Punishment is everywhere this weekend, and between having Field Blower and a bunch of these, you should be able to make sure that it never stays there for more than a turn. And given that you're a GX heavy deck, and this puts 1 damage counter on each of your GXs between turns, shall we say pretty important to stop that as soon as possible. We also see here Mysterious Treasure. This is one of those cards which has been creeping into a whole bunch of different decks. It cannot get you your Zoroark, it cannot get you your Zorua, but it can get you your Garbodor, it can get you Tapu Lele. It gets you enough that it's a viable addition to Ultra Ball. You probably don't play it instead of, but you can play it in addition to. We do see him playing Enhanced Hammer, which combos beautifully with Kartana here, which I like very, very much indeed, because it means you can basically just run your opponent out of energies, and that's hilarious. We do see Evo Soda here, and look, you're playing a Stage 1's deck. So of course you're going to be trying to make sure that you're getting all your Stage 1s out, and Evo Soda helps you with that beautifully. We see the aforementioned Bridget. You need to get all of your basics out. And I know Bridget is a card which is played in most decks, though not all decks, but it's so important in a deck revolving around Stage 1s, because you've got to get your Pokemon out as soon as possible. We do see Puzzle of Time. Now, Puzzle of Time is going to be banned soon. It is rotating out of the standard format, and it is being banned in the expanded format. But for now, you can play it. And if you play 2 of them at the same time, you get to search your discard pile for any 2 cards and put them back into your hand. It lets you reuse and recover resources. If you're against a deck that plays more than the average amount of special energy, you reuse your Enhanced Hammer. If your opponent's using a lot of items, you recover and make sure you've got all of your Garbodor ready to go. You can just get your double colorless energy back if you need to keep attacking with Zoroark. It's brilliant, ladies and gentlemen. I really do think that Puzzle of Time is broken with Zoroark. Because here's the thing, right? You got to play 2 at once. Getting 2 in your hand at once is difficult. Playing a Cynthia to draw into 2, not that likely. But with trade, you can keep 1 Puzzle of Time in your hand and just keep drawing cards with trade until you draw the other one. That's what makes it so good. And of course, it's Robin Schulz. He plays Town Map. For those of you that are unaware, he plays Town Map in every deck. It lets you know what your prizes are. Now, it does give a bit of information to your opponent, but hopefully you've played something like an Ultra Ball so you know what's in your prizes, so you don't give away any pertinent information. Let's say you had free double colorless energy prize, you probably don't want to let your opponent know that. Or if you've got no ability lock Garbodor because they're all in your prizes, again, might not want to tell your opponent. But Philip, in all of his decks, he knows which prizes he's taking. When you take a KO, you know which card you're getting. There's none of this, my last DCE was my last prize malarkey, because you're guaranteed to get the one you want. It's a great deck. It's a kind of deck which gives you all kinds of options, but needs to be played by a phenomenal player because it's just decision making all the way through the game, and you've got to keep making the right decisions. We've seen him pull off some amazing things on stream. Congratulations to Robin for winning the Pokemon Trading Card Game World Championships 2018 in the Masters Division. I, for one, am delighted, because he's a lovely chap. Congratulations to him. And hopefully now you all know a little bit more about how he did it. But ladies and gentlemen, I would love to hear from you in the comment section. Tell me what you think about this deck. Tell me whether you were cheering for Robin, or tell me who you were rooting for if it was somebody else. Go nuts, but remember the rule, this is very important. Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.